morning. Here we go again. I want to read a little bit out of the Flight of the Garuda. Now, every sage, saint, guru, a teacher, wherever one is at, you have some of your own favorite texts. Ramana's favorite text was one of them was the Ashtavakra Gita, the Vivek Chudamani, the Tripura Rahasya. Now, I love those three also dearly. Those are three of also my very favorite texts, but I have another one and I'm going to share it with you today. Flight of the Garuda. Now, this is a Dzogchen, a Buddhist, Tibetan Buddhist understanding, wisdom, knowledge that has come from a realized being, of course, okay, that well knows how to give the path. And the reason I love this text because it's very in dovetailing with what I teach, how I teach my students, things that I give them as well, okay? I couldn't have written it better myself as far as an instructional guide, okay? Flight of the Garuda. We're going to go into the third song, okay? Emaho. Now listen further, all my best beloved sons and daughters. No matter what system of mind training you practice, unless you realize the nature of your mind, severing its root, you miss the point of Dzogchen. So why do they say severing its root? Because you don't want it to rebound, regrow again, okay? You cut the mind spin. You go into that Turiyatita, still mind, blown out. That's what nirvana means. Nirvana means blown out. Conditionings are blown out. The mind spin is blown out. You enter that quietude, okay? You enter that direct seeing, okay? Consciousness, okay? Awareness, but no longer being occluded by mind spin. So let's continue forward with this. The errant aspirant blind to this imperative is like the archer who places his target to the front only to shoot off the arrow in another direction. Okay? He is like the householder who searches outside for a thief who's still in the house. Like the exorcist who sets his spirit trap at the west door when the demon lives in the east. Like the poor man who begs blind to his hearthstone of gold. Okay? So it's right there. It's right there. You have it here. But you're looking in this direction, you're looking in that direction, every place other than where you will find it. So let's continue. Therefore, my beloved children, you who wish to resolve life's frustrations and anxieties by the direct method of discovering the nature of mind, examine your minds in the following way. What we call mind is an insistent chatterer, hopping, skipping, jumping about. Try to catch it and it slips away, changing shape or vanishing. Attempt to focus it and it will not be still. Proliferating and scattering. Try to pin it with a label and it resolves into unutterable emptiness. But it is same mind that experiences the gamut of human feeling, and this is the mind that must be scrutinized. Okay? So again, you have to enter witness state. You have to watch. You see it come from nothingness to nothingness. When a thought comes, where does it come from and where does it go to? It only has reality when you're focused on it. Okay? So let's see what they have to say. Let's continue forward. First, what is the origin of this mind? Is it a function of external phenomena, mountains, rocks, water, trees, and celestial breezes? Or is it independent of them? Asking yourself where the mind comes from, investigate this possibility thoroughly. Okay? So again, it's watching. Where do these thoughts come from? And when it's out of your attention, where does it go to? It only has seeming reality when your focus is on it, when you're clinging to it. Okay? Otherwise, what reality does it have? It comes from nothing, it goes to nothing. Okay? But these are things one has to learn and has to come to within yourself through watching, through looking, through questioning, through observation. Okay? So let's go forward. Alternatively, consider whether or not the mind originates from the reproductive fluids of our parents. If so, inquire into the process by which it emerges. Continue this inquiry until it is exhausted and you admit the mind has no origin. Okay? So, is the mind a creation of the body? Okay? When one looks very deeply, you find out that the mind is programmed by intention. Okay? It's programmed. It's like the computer, okay? But you have a programmer. So the mind is basically like the computer. It's an object, okay? So let's continue forward. Then secondly, answer the question, where is the mind now? Is it in the upper or lower part of your body? Is it in your sense organs, in your lungs or your heart? If it lodges in your heart, then what part of the heart? What is its color and shape? Thoroughly investigate the present location of the mind and its characteristics until you're certain that they are not to be found. Okay? So again, if you continue to look at it, you'll find out that mind is composed really of thoughts. Okay, thoughts. Thoughts do not live in the mind. Okay, thoughts and these things can program the mind. Okay, so let's continue forward. Finally, examine the movement of the mind. When it moves, does it pass through the organs of the senses? In its momentary embrace of external objects, is there physical contact? It is only a mental function. Or are both body and mind involved together? Investigate the process of perception. Further, when a thought arises with its attendant emotion, firstly, investigate its source. Now, you'll see this is, again, like the writing that I've done, Why the Silence, Why Not Mind, and about the going through what is ego, what is it not, okay? When you have a thought, it creates emotion. It creates usually a flush of this adrenaline, okay? Which then creates a storyline, attaches to a storyline, which then creates another thought. And you have this revolving saga But again, this is something one has to see for themselves through introspection, through witness state, through watching, questioning as to what this is. Or what is this I? What is creating this sense of ego? What is this I? Whatever is moving and changing is not the divine is. Netty, netty, not this, not this, not this. But again, this is part of the path. Watching the mind. Seeing that it comes from nothing, goes to nothing. When the thoughts arise, they create emotion. Emotion affects the physical form, which then creates another storyline. But again, this is something that one has to do the journey to see. Okay? So let's go forward. Now you see why I love this text, because really, this is at the heart of what is taught here, what is given here. Okay? So at the end of this, I'll go ahead and read the one that I have written, and you'll see that it's very, very similar, that this really dovetails with what is given from here, from the experience and the path here. Like I said, my path here is called Vajra Nirvana Marg, the lightning bolt path, the lightning bolt path. Okay? So let's continue forward. Secondly, find its present location, its color and shape, and any other attributes. Look long and hard for the answers to these questions. Lastly, when thought has subsided into itself and vanished, where has it gone? Okay, let's see that again. Look long and hard for the answers to these questions, and when thought has subsided into itself and vanished, where has it gone? Examine your mind closely for the answers. At the time of death, what occurs to the mind? How does it leave the body? Where does it exit? Consider these questions and all their ramifications in detail. Persevere in your careful inquiry, examining the mind until you reach a positive conclusion that it's empty, pure, utterly inexpressible, that it is a non-entity and free of birth and death, coming and going. The arid assertions and metaphors of others, statements such as mind is emptiness, are worse than useless. Okay? So again, this is right in alignment with what I say. You go to satsang sellers, there's nothing to get, there's nowhere to go, you're already that. It's useless. They're giving a round robin of BS that goes nowhere. You have to actually do the path and see and come to wisdom, knowledge within oneself, rather than going to somebody that's parroting a bunch of words, going in circular drama that gives you nothing. Okay? So let's say this again. Mind is emptiness, and this is worse than useless until you know the answer yourself. Such statements tend to bring doubt and hesitation to the mind. It's like a dogmatic assertion that tigers do, in fact, live in a country where it's generally supposed the tigers are extinct. It leaves doubt and uncertainty on this subject. After tentatively examining your mind and having established its nature, it is as if you had explored the valleys and the hills where the tigers are said to exist, and having seen for yourself whether tigers live there, are fully informed. Thereafter, if the question of tigers' existence in that place arises, you will have no doubt to the truth of the matter. So that is just one of the songs in Song of the Garuda. Now, let me see. I get the thing and I'll read the one that I've written that dovetails right into this. Ego, bondage, and illusions of truth. Okay? Okay. All of our emotional bondages are created and held in place by that which is known as ego. Ego is the belief that we are these bodies, emotions, and thoughts. Therefore, when anything goes against any of these systems, we hold it to be an assault against our persona. Depending on our belief system and identity, which is already in place, the disturbance can be mildly irritating to downright devastating. If we encountered a traumatic situation where there was a belief that impending death was just around the corner, then that trauma may be rerun again and again in the psyche, creating even more pain and perceived trauma. But there is a way to short-circuit these illusions of truth. For anything that is not liberating is not truth at all, but an illusion of truth. It is these illusions we will address. How are they created and what sustains them? And if they are illusions, how do we move beyond them? If we are not this ego structure, then what are we? How can peace of mind be attained and preserved? Where do we begin? And where will the search end? Believe it or not, that which you fear the most can be that which liberates you in the end. The largest perceived fear can be the greatest liberator. So please bear with me in this. Right now, you're probably thinking this woman has a screw loose somewhere. Maybe if I were in your place, I would think the same thing. But I have been where you are and have escaped the seemingly concrete fears and thought constructions and emotional baggage which kept me bound for many years. I've walked the path and therefore can speak from the position of direct experiential knowledge and not hearsay. All I will speak of has been acquired by direct experience. I do not have a PhD, but rather a direct knowledge of truth as it is. It is this truth which I wish to share with you today. Conditionings. From the moment we're born, the conditionings begin, and the conditions of life are set. We are born into this world with a body. Some bodies are seen as perfect and some flawed. We are born into a family. Some are glad at the arrival, and perhaps some are not. All of these things begin to create the conditionings and conditions of our lives. The views of our parents and society and friends all have an impact on our thought structures and perceptions. These all come together to create our basic outlook on life and what we hold to be truth. These all create our perceptions of truth. If you're supported and told you're smart, then you have confidence in whatever you do. While on the other hand, if you're always told you're stupid and ugly, then this will color your world and view of reality. This colors your thoughts of who you perceive yourself to be, along with all the other events in life, which also color and interplay within your reality framework. One person whom has always been sheltered within a loving family will see the world as a kind and beneficial, beautiful place to be. Whereas one whom has come from a harsh and abusive environment will see the world colored as a place to be continually on guard. There are events which unfold in everyone's life which will skew even these basic belief systems, holding on to the past. Now you begin to see just how much the conditionings create our basic view of reality, as we know it or think it to be. Within this, out of the way, we begin right where you are at this moment in time. The first thing we do is to look at the fact that past is past. So if you are rerunning the tapes of the past, let's look at the fact that by running them over and over again, you can change nothing. All you're doing is reinforcing past nonsense that's keeping you bound in one form or another. If it were not keeping you bound, it would have passed right out of your awareness. For whatever reason, you perceive you are continually holding on to this perception, whether slight or hurt or trauma, and you have to admit it's not doing anything constructive in your life. The what if factor. Now let's look at the other waste of energy, which we continually find ourselves involved in. And this is the what if factor. Trying to live in the future just never works, as the only place that you can ever truly live is the present moment of now. So what is happening when you're running the past tapes and the what if tapes? In essence, you're passing life by. You are only existing. You're not living at all. Life is in a holding pattern, continually circling around and around, and the more you feed the past and the life ifs, what ifs, the more they grow into unmanageable cyclones of wasted energy and efforts. You are only attempting to deal with a change, something which is already gone. It lives only within your illusion of truth. And the conflict is there because of the ego identification with the body, emotions, and thoughts. And in truth, you are none of these things. So we are getting into where it dovetails with this, into looking at thoughts, emotions, holdings, okay? So we'll continue forward. So now you ask, where do I go from here? And from here, I say it's time you found out the truth of who and what you really are and who you're not. Once you know at long last just what comprises your being, then the rest of that, which is illusion, will drop away of its own accord. When these things are no longer given any energy, they will dissipate into the vapors of unreality that they are. Like a drop of dew evaporates in the sunlight, these illusions will dissipate under the light of truth. So are you ready to begin the never-ending adventure? Are you ready to begin to live life to the fullest? To grab and rest in the freedom that is waiting for you? It's always there and has always been there. It's only your own blinders which keep you from seeing it. It is your fear that you are nothing and nobody. Is your great fear that death and that you will cease to be? Let's examine these fears and see what comes out of them. The freedom to be. Let's look and proceed at what is transient. What is it about you that comes and goes? When you peel away the layers of the transient, what is it that remains? When you come to what remains, you will begin and you will come to the truth of your being. You will see that there was nothing to fear and that there is only freedom that remains. Won't that be a lovely thing to remain? Just the freedom to be, the freedom of knowing that you are the unbound truth of existence, that all you perceived was just an illusion of bondage and fear, which never had any reality at all except that which you yourself gave it. So, are you ready to unravel all the fears and thoughts and emotions that have kept you tied on the wheel of karma? Are you ready to let go of the desires that keep you bound to the wheel of birth and death? For it is not the actions which keep you on the wheel of karma, going around and around. It is the thought and intent of the actions. And it is the reactions of the actions which come against you, which once again keep you bound to the wheel of birth and death, just going around and around in never-ending spiral called life and death, birth, rebirth. We keep circling through the same old patterns again and again until we can break this cycle. In each life, we will draw the same patterns to ourselves, keep creating the same illusions of truth until we can break free and can see them for what they are. And once we see through them, the pattern will drop and we move onward to a new experience. Look at your life and see what patterns keep coming up again and again. Now let's walk through the door of knowledge to liberation and the freedom that awaits, the truth of your being. Now we're getting into this point of what I was just reading from Flight of the Garuda, and you'll see how these dovetail. What is mind? Is it a physical thing? Let's look here. What is the mind comprised of? Is not the mind comprised of thoughts? And just what are thoughts? Are they some concrete existence? No. Thoughts come and go like waves on the sea. First one thought is there, and then another, and so on and on and on. One arises and falls, and then the next, and so on, infinitum. But there can only be one thought that makes an appearance at a time. Sometimes these thoughts will start in a whirlpool, one after another, just going around and around until you're dizzy and disoriented from the sheer continued motion and circling around and around. But look at it again. Even though there are certain thought patterns which keep appearing and cycling, they ultimately come and go. If they come and go, they are not concrete in nature, but fluid. And like waves on the ocean, they can appear like a ripple, or with enough energy can appear as a tidal wave, pulling you out into a sea of emotion and fear and despair, only because they have touched upon an illusion of truth. They come and rock your world, creating waves in your reality. Let's continue the search until we uncover the reality that cannot be shaken. When you come to the truth, you will be set free, as truth always is, and is the basis for all of creation. All has proceeded from truth, is sustained by truth, and will once again return to truth. Illusions, being what they are, in the end must disappear. When the illusion is uncovered, it ceases to be. So, we see that mind is comprised of individual thoughts which come and go, one thought manifesting at a time. So mind is not concrete in nature. Mind is an illusion. Mind has no substance. So, let us move on now to thought. What is thought? What is thought? Thought has no concrete nature. So exactly what and where do thoughts manifest from? They have no substance. They arise from nowhere and return to nowhere. So why is so much importance given to something which comes and goes from nowhere to nowhere? When it leaves our awareness and perception, where does it go? It only has life while in the framework of our perceptions. When these thoughts float into our awareness, what happens? We give it life by then ascribing emotions to it. When a thought comes, if you look at it and dwell on it, does it not elicit an emotion? So this emotion gives the thought life for that moment in time. Let us follow the emotion. Emotions come and go. There's something that are particular to you alone. No one feels your emotion but you. Others may see your reaction to the emotion, but the emotion itself is yours alone. Is emotion a concrete thing? No. You cannot have an emotion that lives independently on its own. You are the one that gives it life. Your attention to it gives it life and energy. And once again, emotions come and go like waves on an ocean, in and out, high tide and low tide. And since they are transient in nature, they are not the reality of your being. They are but ripples on the sea of consciousness. One emotion arises and is there for some time until replaced by another emotion. Once again, they are only waves and ripples without any concrete form. Emotions are created and held in place by mind and thought. And we've already seen mind and thought have no substance. They are only passing illusions. And these illusions create and sustain the illusions that keep us bound. So let us review. We know we're not the physical body. If you see something, are you that which is being seen? Is the body that which is watching itself? Nor can we be the mind which is created by thoughts. Nor are we the individual thoughts. Nor are we the conglomerate of thoughts. If we are neither of these, then it follows that we cannot be the emotions which the mind and thoughts create and sustain. And isn't our whole persona just made up and held together by these illusions of mind, thought, and emotion? So let's keep going and seeing what is left. My goodness, do I even exist at all? I think it's safe to say yes. You do exist, just not the way you thought and perceived. So when we take away the body, the mind, the thoughts, the emotions, just what is left? The truth of your being. So how do you know you have thoughts? How do you know you dream at night? Or that there were no dreams? Is it because of consciousness awareness? You are this conscious awareness. It sees the thoughts, but it's not the thoughts. It's aware of emotions, but it's not the emotions. It is aware of form, but it's not the form. It is not concrete nature in nature, yet clearly it is. You are in fact no body, and you are no thing. You are awareness, energy, vibration, truth, and bliss. These are eternal in nature. They are that which creates and sustains existence. All form, while appearing and disappearing, is created by these alone, and therefore always exist. The form may change, but it is eternal, for it never was the concrete illusion of truth which we see. Beyond the form to the formless, see beyond the illusions to the reality of truth. Now let us continue onward. Now we come to the point of putting this all together. Since we are in reality conscious awareness and energy and vibration and truth and bliss, just what thought or emotion or physical happening can touch us? None can truly touch our essence. All of the perceived traumas and hurts have happened only to this body, and you're not this body. This is how we diffuse the bondage. When the pain comes in, again, go into it. Go to the root. There is nothing to go into the fear fully and see that when you reach the end of it, that it will just dissipate. It was only comprised of the illusions of truth. When thoughts come and go, just see them as passing clouds with no substance. Do not give them form and life. Let them come and go like waves on the ocean. Instead of being carried away by a tidal wave, get into the boat and float downstream and enjoy the ride. When you drop the mind of thoughts and illusions, you will reach the still waters of the peace which passes all understanding. You will be the everlasting waters. You will not thirst again. You alone create the fears and the bondages of life, and you have the power to let all of them go. Just go into the illusion and it will dissipate before your very eyes. You will not cease to exist, nor will you find more bondage. What you will find is the doorway to liberation and freedom. You've never truly been born, nor have you died. You are beyond these forms and plays of life. All of this is created by mind and thought. So go beyond all these illusions to who you truly are. Live life to the fullest. You are here to explore and be existence. So drop all the self-doubts and illusions of truth and keep going around and around. You are life. You are bliss. Drop the elusive mind and thought. You are Sat, Chit, Anand. This is the truth of your being. And in reality, what in reality can touch or harm this truth? Nothing at all. So this is from my book, Kundalini from Hell to Heaven. Okay? That's the opening part before we even begin. Okay? So we have that. We have Song of the Butterfly, Finding the Freedom Within. And we also have Wisdom from the Realm of Non-Duality. All these can be gotten through Amazon if you are so inclined. Okay? So much love and light. And now you see why the Flight of the Garuda is one of my favorite texts, because it's really the same thing that I teach on the path here. Okay? This is very much a Dzogchen type of a path. Kundalini path. Okay? So much love and light, and I'll see you online.